podcast.
Woo! What's up, people? Welcome to Creative Theater Podcast, show that brings you conversations with visual artists about how they got to where they got, what their day-to-day is like, what their struggles are, their goals, thoughts on what's happening in the art world, and a lot more. My name is Ilya, and I am the host. And today we got a really special guy, artist, designer, photographer. He also does really funny Instagram stories, and sometimes actually, I don't think I get them, but maybe he'll be able to explain it to me. They're pretty good. You got to follow him. He's also the man behind Vancouver-based print and apparel brand Explorers Press. That's a bit of a mouthful. Brendan Megannety. What's up? Thanks for joining on the show. I really appreciate it.
Oh man, my pleasure.
I guess about those Instagram stories. Do you think your quirky humor just helps you in art? Because sometimes I don't think I get it.
Oh, you mean like the ones where I put my face on everything?
You put your face on everything?
Yeah, I don't know. Once they came out with that sticker, I couldn't help but put my face on stuff. I mean, I guess that's art in itself.
It totally is.
It's how I express myself.
If you say if you say it's art, then it's art. And
yeah, why not? I don't know. That's the best feature they've put out for sure.
Yeah. Do you feel like it's like sometimes people draw like dicks on the walls, but sometimes you put your face on funny people, or I mean I don't know. It's a good comparison, but it just seems so like it's super playful.
I'm drawing a dick on the wall, like in the greater sense. I'm drawing the dick on the internet, you know.
On the internet,
yeah,
in a little bit more mature way.
Yeah.
Well, I want to get into really the story, and I think how you came up with the brand and how that blew up. It seems like it's so cool. It's usually so cool to see people around you, and especially with art and how successful it gets. But what does your life look like right now? Because you're freelancing, right?
Yeah, so I run the brand full time. I've been doing the brand full time for about 5 years, and then beyond that, I do a lot of white label design for other brands and companies, and I do middleman production. So people come to me and they want the styles of products that I offer through Explorers Press, whether it's print stuff like shirts and hoodies and hats, or they want pins, they want keychains, whatever. So I do a lot of that, and then I do some straight graphic design for a few clients here in Vancouver and a few in Toronto, and I also run a company that does commercial signage, so windows and sandwich boards. Yeah, so
that's a handful.
I do a little bit of stuff.
And you have so what's the average work day then?
So I wake up around 7 every day.
Yeah.
And
nice.
I just
that's
6:45 in the summer,
nice.
6:45 in the summer, but because it's winter, the sun's not out yet when I get up, and it's kind of depressing. But
yeah.
I wake up in the morning, make coffee, and then I just break up my laptop, sit on the couch, and just go through emails because I deal with a lot of stuff out east. So usually everyone out there has already been going for a couple hours, and then usually I head down to my studio down here in Chinatown at about 9:30 or 10, just after traffic. And I work there until about 1 or 2 in the afternoon. And then I either go and run errands, or if I have to install a graphic or anything, I'll go and do that. And then I get back home for around dinner time and then make dinner, keep working usually.
So so you do keep working after?
Yeah, most days. Yeah, I've been trying to shut it down right at 5 or 6, but it's hard, you know.
I was going to say, are you able to separate yourself, like the work and the...
No.
That's not a thing, right?
This year, my New Year's resolution, well, I had 2 New Year's resolutions, but my work-based one was to give myself 1 day off a week. So I've been trying to just take 1 day to not answer emails, or because I mean, you know, not actually doing any work, like not actually drawing or doing any design is one thing, but actually not interacting with my work email and stuff like that is sort of my goal. And it's been okay. I've had a few successful weeks, I guess, for 6 weeks in or whatever.
Not bad, yeah.
Yeah.
I can't believe it's only 6 weeks.
I know.
It feels like a while. But that separation then, but are you saying you're not even taking weekends? There's no such thing, or
well, I mean, because I co-own a store down here in Chinatown as well, so I guess I forgot to mention that.
Go
on the store.
Another thing on the list, yes.
Yeah, so we're only open Saturday, Sunday, and then by appointment through the week. So we split the weekend days, and so if I work Saturday, then usually Sunday I try and take Sunday as my day off, and that's just the day that I usually end up cleaning my house and just sort of doing life stuff. But yeah, I mean, I'll work through the weekends. I'll answer emails. I'll do whatever, just because I like getting stuff just out of the way. I hate leaving stuff on my plate until the next day, because I figure if I can just answer this email even from my phone and just get it out of my inbox, it's easier than leaving it and then doing it later. So
I definitely relate to that.
Yeah.
But yeah, and the emails are especially not exactly the artistic side.
No, my friend said that to me. This was 6 or 7 years ago.
Okay.
In San Francisco, he said to me, when I decided to become an artist, nobody told me I was going to be a bill collector. And that's how I feel like it's my job is like 1% creative really, and the rest of it's just trying to get paid. Or
just running around
yeah,
trying to get money from people.
Yeah, or like trying to deal with, tax stuff. I'm really lucky because my mom is, she's an accountant, so she really helps me. I mean, I have a bookkeeper, I have another account, all that stuff. Like, nobody told me that it was like running a small business is really hard, and the government doesn't, there's no handbook, right? So you just got to figure it out.
And it sounds like you took yourself through business school just by doing it.
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, my parents set aside a little bit of money for me to go to school, and I never ended up doing any post-secondary. I never went anywhere after high school. I went straight into the workforce, as they say. Yeah, but
what kind of workforce? What is that?
Well, I did a bunch of different crap. I worked in bike shops. I worked in kitchens. I worked in bike shops. I was a bike messenger. I worked as a mover. I did all sorts of stupid stuff that wasn't, but and creativity was always, the hobby. And then so the last job that I did before I ended up doing what I do now full time was I was working as a screen printer, industrial screen printer, in Etobicoke, just outside Toronto.
Cool.
Toronto's Brooklyn. Yeah, so I did that, and then that's kind of what led to doing the brand full time. But anyways, yeah. Where was I going with that?
No, that was great. Was the screen printing something that actually helped you transition into Explorers Press?
Yeah, well, I mean, that was the thing is I was self-publishing books, like making zines and making prints. That's what we would print shirts all day, but they would let us use all the screen printing equipment to make our own stuff at the end of the day or on our lunch break or before work. So I was making prints, like prints on paper, making self-publishing little books, making my own shirts and stuff, and just like selling them at art shows or even giving them away or trading them with people. Like the zine community was just kind of really happening at the time, and this was probably in 2012.
Is there still a community? Because you said you're from Toronto. I don't really see as much of this in Vancouver. Is it bigger in Toronto?
I mean, it was bigger in Toronto for sure. I mean, I don't really know. I made a zine for the first time in a few years last year. I made this little zine. It was all about billiards and pool.
You should explain what a zine is.
Oh, it's like a zine is just like, it's a crappy version of a magazine, I guess.
And is it zine because it's smaller? Is that the idea?
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, I remember buying them at, Antisocial when I was in high school. And they're just like these little DIY, like Xerox books or little magazines that people make. And I was making them in high school. I was making all sorts of like just little things. I'm making prints, doing stencils, and like just writing graffiti and all that
So
stuff.
You already knew you were creative then?
Yeah, I mean, I had always been sort of had that creative mind. I always liked drawing and I always liked painting and photography. I mean, I did a lot of photo stuff before I got back into illustration because my mid-20s I didn't draw all that much. I was doing more photo and, having shows, and I was moderately successful with that stuff, but it was just kind of hard because there's a lot of people out there doing it, and it was kind of feast or famine, and I always had to have a real job as well, which...
Real job? What is that? What is a real job?
A real job, I guess, is one where somebody tells you what you have to do every day. Yeah.
That's most of us?
It doesn't work for me. I don't like it.
Well, it's pretty sweet that it worked out the way it did for you.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was just a combination of, it was good timing. Just with social media was changing, like the landscape for social media was changing, and people were really paying attention to what was happening on Instagram, and it was this new thing where it was really easy to, if you're creative, like put your stuff out there and for a lot of people to see it. So I think part of it was timing, and then part of it was just like, I wanted a way to take my designs and other people's designs and sort of make them more accessible. So instead of making prints that were like, $100 or having originals that were, were $500, like you could just like make a shirt or a patch and sell it for $5 or $20 or whatever, and then people could have it and enjoy the art and have something that's tangible instead of just looking at it on the internet, and making it accessible for people. That was sort of always the idea behind Explorers Press, was to be able to have this platform for myself and other artists to put stuff out there,
I love the fact that was your approach to it, because I actually, I think either you wrote it on your website or somewhere, I read about the fact that you do want to make your art accessible, which is a pretty honest approach, and I think it's great, especially being an artist, and you understand either how expensive it is or how harder it is to get just other people's art. I mean, that's kind of just reality of it, and I think you found a really cool way to keep the integrity and the quality, right? But then you can make it so, I don't know, it's like $10 and people can get like this piece that you created, and it can be across the world.
Yeah, I think it's just, I like having tangible things. I like owning art.
Totally,
If I could, I would own, like, I would spend all my money on art and prints and everything. But it's like, one, I ran out of wall space a long time ago.
That's how I feel. I want to keep I wonder if I should start buying art and just like giving away as gifts, but it doesn't feel right because I want to keep it, but
Yeah,
there's not
yeah.
enough walls. Yeah.
Yeah, I know. I mean, my old apartment in Toronto, I had everything stacked on the wall like salon style, so
Oh,
like
yeah,
floor
yeah.
to ceiling frame stuff.
Nice.
And you know, I have, but yeah, and then it's just like I have a flat file full of prints that I bought that I never even had space for, and I just like owning. I like stuff. I'm a hoarder, I guess.
But hoarder of good art.
Good and bad.
Can
I
we
like
say
bad
that?
art.
You got
I like,
bad art too?
I like bad art just as much as good art. I mean, I would say about the biggest thing that made me feel juiced creatively working in the screen printing shop was you're just surrounded by bad design all day. Like you're just printing stuff for like
Because you're for hire?
cheerleading.
Oh, yeah.
Oh yeah, you're printing like the worst shit, and then
Yeah.
you're seeing like you're seeing colors next to each other, and you're seeing. That was what got me more juiced than seeing good art, because you know good art, you're like I want to make that, because you see it and it's good, but you can't make it because somebody else already did. But with bad art, you're just like, okay, now I know what not to do.
Oh, so I'm pretty sure. Yeah. So the last show, Peter Rico was here, and he was saying how the bad stuff was almost as inspiring because he was like, if these people are doing this and they're getting paid for this stuff, I can definitely do better.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think that, and there is a point where it comes full circle and it's so bad that it's good. And I feel like half my designs are so bad they're good. You know, like I look a lot at stuff that's 90s, like 80s, 90s souvenir stuff, and it's just crappy graphic design, and that's what makes it so good. You know, it has this sort of nostalgic feel to it. I was just at the flea market, the Terminal Flea, before this morning, and I just like found all these old bumper stickers that say like "I heart weekends, holidays, and afternoons" or something like that. And it doesn't make any sense, but it's like it's so bad. It's good.
That's cool.
You know?
I was actually gonna go there this Saturday. I need to look up things for painting. But why do you think it's bad? Is it actually bad? The stuff you're talking about? Like what's the?
I think if you went to somebody who was a trained graphic designer and asked them if it was a good design, no, because it's somebody that it's got this X factor, you know, that you just look at and you're like, that's so good.
Yeah. Now it's like it's been enough time for it to, like you're saying, feel nostalgic.
Well, it's so honest because it's somebody that just wanted to. They had a weird idea.
Totally.
Like the other sticker I bought said "I heart dogs," and it's
That's
like
cool.
somebody was like, "Oh, I really love dogs, and I want to make this bumper sticker and put it on the back of my car." You know?
That's what I love about it. There's things you see and you forget to think about the fact that someone actually decided to really spend their time, contact the printers. I want 1,000 copies of I Heart Dog. Like it's just everything actually has thought in it, especially these old things. Like you almost forget to think about, like you're saying, the bumper stickers. Like, oh yeah, someone spent a lot of time and really a lot of love into this.
Well, and stuff that we think is lame, like somebody else is like, "Oh, that's so cool."
Exactly.
Like I see bumper stickers that say like, "Oh, I love Irish Highland dancing," you know, and it's like got this corny little Irish clip art guy, and like to me that's lame. But then I kind of look at it and I'm like, somebody loved that enough to like put it on their nice car.
Totally.
Yeah.
And I think there's a art to making good bad art. That's or good ugly art. Like I don't know how to say it, but there's certain artists where, especially for example, I see it in character design and especially in French character designers, they draw. I guess it would be more for animation field, but sometimes the way they draw, you can usually tell if an artist is French by the way they draw it, and it has a bit of like ugliness to it. It's not perfect, but it makes it so much cooler because it's not perfected. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
If you compare a French, like Goblin, I think is animation school, to to stuff that Disney comes out with, there's this big difference where I don't know, they just make things like awkward in a beautiful way. I mean, not everyone, but I'm just saying there's this kind of there's a skill to making really good bad art.
I think that, yeah, I mean, so from something that I do when I finish a design is I'll go, like if I design something straight into Illustrator, if I'm not actually drawing it on paper, which sometimes for certain products I don't do anything on paper, I just go straight into Illustrator.
Mm-hmm.
And say I'm laying out text or whatever, I will go in when I'm done the design and I will kind of just like make certain things off center, and I will just, put, like skew one letter by 1 degree and just kind of make it imperfect. And I
making
think
it like feel handmade basically, right?
not even handmade, but just like sort of, the imperfections are what makes it. So
Mm-hmm.
it's not necessarily handmade, like it's still like it's still a vector design or whatever, but I just don't want it to be perfect because perfection for me, it's too sterile or something.
Yeah.
Like that.
I know what you mean. Especially for, I guess, the look that you're going and the fact, which probably mentioned that the brand's theme is outside, outdoors. Out, like,
Yeah,
is that the
I think that, I've heard more than one person say, well, you just said that the brand is about outdoors. The brand's about exploration, and that doesn't
Mhm.
necessarily mean like camping.
Mhm.
It for me, exploration is either like it's stuff inside the city. It's just sort of like
Yeah.
experiencing shit outside of just what you do day to day. I don't know. The brand is super loose. I make whatever the hell I want, and then just as a byproduct, people seem to like it, so I sell it.
Do you dislike the fact that you have to call it a brand?
Yeah, I never wanted to. This wasn't the goal.
That's why I feel a little weird. I didn't want to project, but being an artist, it's your creation. Like, you don't want to call it, like, it's not a brand. You're making art for yourself and other people, you know what I mean? It's still a project that you're creating, right?
And I feel like using the term art is sometimes it feels a little controversial, because I'm like, is this art? Like, I don't know.
But it's like you're saying you're making those Instagram videos and putting a face on it. If that's art, what you're making is art too.
I guess. I mean, I just do whatever the hell I want, and people seem to like it, so I never really second guess it. Do you ever put pressure on yourself to make things that people like? No, I mean, I guess, yeah, over the last few years I have felt a little bit more pressure. My whole thing in the beginning was, I just said to myself, I'm going to make stuff that I want, stuff that I like, and then if people want to buy it, that's cool. And that's been good and bad for me. Like, I've had a few designs where it just went way over people's heads, or they're just too screwed up, or like too... Whatever. Yeah, I don't really care. I mean, like, I've made products that I've never released under the brand, and I just wanted to make them. And I just have bags and stickers and like all this stuff at my house just because I wanted it. That seems to be the way to do it. That sounds a lot more creative. Well, I mean, it's a luxury for me. Like, I have this brand that makes that I earn a living off of, so I can just like spend my money to, like, I made this pool zine, and I sold a few of them, but they were really just for myself, and they were just like all this imagery that I collected over the years, like in pool halls, and all these logos, and I made like a patch that said "World's Worst Gambler" and like all this weird stuff. And I don't know, I did it because I wanted to do it. And you said that was last year, right? It was the end of last year. So I think I did it for like November last year. And I didn't sell them through Explorers Press. Like, I put it up on my personal Instagram that I had the thing, and I'd sold them mostly to friends and like gave them away and traded them with people, which was what it felt like at the beginning when I was doing zines. It was this community thing around it. You're going back to the roots. Trying, yeah. I mean, I wanted to make something for myself, because we were chatting about this before we went on the air. Is, like, everything I do now that's creative is like, there's some pressure because I need to make money to like pay my rent, and I have a shop that I have to pay the rent there, and it's not something I do at the end of the day because I have a 9-to-5 job that sustains me. It's like my livelihood is based on creativity, which can get tricky. I would say that's probably the biggest obstacle for a lot of people is when it is freelance is. It's like finding that separation, because if you go to, like, if you're doing 9 to 5 somewhere, even, graphic designer, animator, artist, whatever, you are able to turn off after, or hopefully you can, and then do stuff for yourself, and hopefully there's no pressure for you to sell it, because, you have your full-time job, where in your case, like we were saying in the beginning, there's not a large separation just because your art is what you like to make, and so now that becomes a job and a lifestyle and things you want to make too, right? Yeah, I mean, it doesn't feel like a job 100% of the time. There's parts of it that feel like the job. The stuff that we were talking about where it's like, I'm invoicing and I'm doing all this stuff. Like, that feels like a job. But, like, really at the end of the day, I take a step back sometimes. And, even when I go get a coffee, I'm like, man, I could just be working here, and that would suck. Dude. Not, no diss to people who work in the coffee shop, but that's just not for me, I don't really... Well, it's just because you're creative, I think. So actually, tell me about those crappy jobs that you did. Oh, man. Did that help? Was that good for you? Yeah, I mean, it helped me find my way. And you know what? Working in the bike shop, I did that for 7 or 8 years. And, I ran the shop out in Toronto. My boss lived here. Oh. And, he still got a few shops here. And that taught me a lot about business and, like, just how to deal with, nice. How business works and, like, banking and all that stuff. So, I mean, yeah, that was a cool job. Working as a bike messenger was a cool job. It's cool if you like being poor. But, I mean, other than that, it was cool because... I was doing a lot of photography, and I would just have my little, I was shooting film, so I'd have a little point-and-shoot film camera, like, in a pouch, like, on the strap of my messenger bag, and I was outside for, like, 8 or 9 hours a day. That's awesome. In Toronto, just biking around, so I'd just see crazy stuff, and, like, the other messengers out there were pretty colorful people, so that was how I kind of really, and then I, ended up making a zine out of, like, all the stuff that I was seeing on the road, and that was cool. I would have done that forever, if it wasn't, like, if you didn't make, like, $60 a day, and, like, hard... riding. You mean would have done the zines, the photography, or the messaging? Hello, people waving outside. Somebody's bringing me a coffee, I think. I would have done it. I would have been a bike messenger forever if it was like viable. I loved that job. I loved everything about it. It was just like, it's hard to make a living and do that. It's like, it was cool. I was 20. I was 20 or 21, and it was rad. But I don't know. There's a lot of things. You know, if money wasn't a factor, I'd probably be doing something different. You know,
That's
like
awesome,
I would like to just like
what
professional vacationer would be nice.
Nice, that's a good one. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know, like hammock tester or something like that, if that's a job.
You're still thinking of a job though. You don't need a job if money is not a problem, or you would still need some sort of activity.
Yeah, I mean, I think I need something to like fill my days. You know, I'm not good. I'm not good with like being like not doing something. I'm not good at going away and just like reading for 7 days. Like I need activities.
Yeah. That's how I feel as well. You get itchy, right? First couple of days, just relaxing.
Last year was the first year that I like successfully went away and just like chilled a little bit. But yeah, it's hard.
You're making vacations sound like a lot of work.
They are. You know, I don't take vacations. I go away for work. Like I go away and I like go to somewhere and I'll like do some work while I'm there, and that's what I enjoy because that's like a good way for me to see the city and have some purpose and write it off. You know, which is cool.
Good one.
Yeah.
That's why artists are hard to date. You just never stop, especially if like people who are not artists. Like
I would like to go on the record and say that I'm not hard to date.
You're not hard to date. Okay,
No,
he is not. But I feel like the brain that never stops and never shuts down. Doing a lot of work for people who are not creative. I think it's hard to get.
I think that more than anything, it's just what we talked about, where I come home and I keep working, and so like to fit somebody else into your life and have that can be tricky for somebody else that it doesn't have like a big full life. You know, like somebody that works 9 to 5 and then they're done at 5 and they just want to like chill out and watch a movie. I'm like, okay, well I'm going to keep working because I enjoy my work. You know,
oh yeah,
it's for me that's fulfilling, right? So.
Awesome. Like we're flying around all these concepts. I really like how it's going. I got this. I mean, they're like I was telling you before. I got this trajectory of where the conversation in my mind would go, and then it doesn't, and it's actually kind of fun like that.
yeah. I mean, it feels. I mean, you and I knew each other before. Like, we used to share the studio together. So.
Before I get to that, because that's actually where I was going. You're saying you like purchasing art. What's the last piece you got? Do you remember?
My friend Skip. Lives down in Seattle.
Hey Skip.
Hey Skip. If you're listening, what's up? He made these beautiful flocked prints. So they're like screen printed, but they have that flocking, and it feels like.
What is that? Is it edges like?
No. It's like it feels like almost like cloth on the paper.
Wow.
Like it's like this. It's like fur. It's like a furry.
There's actually
print.
fur. Wow.
Well, it's not fur. It's called flocking. I don't know. He made these really cool flock prints, and they're like black light, like super kind of psychedelic. I just framed one of those and put that up in my place. I mean, I have a painting that I bought, I guess when we were in the studio together, that I bought off Scott Sumi, and that's my favorite painting for sure. I have a couple Remio prints. I have 2 Remio paintings.
Nice. Yeah.
What else do I have? Oh, man.
You don't have to name them all. I've been to your house briefly, and you had a lot of art. And a lot of books as well.
Yeah, I love source books, like Dover source books. So they were sort of like clip art before computers, you know, like in the 80s and 90s, and they're just like these royalty-free books that are either, you know, typefaces, so fonts or whatever, or just like images that you can use. And I use those a lot for work, where I'll just leaf through them and find something that's kind of inspiring, and I'll either use the shape from it or use a typeface that I find in there. So yeah, I collect those. I go down to Portland a lot and get them at Powell's.
Is that the place? Is that a secret place?
They're everywhere. Yeah. They were really popular in the 90s from, you know, I was pretty young, but from what I remember. And my dad even had some. My dad was a commercial artist. He did sign painting and he did coats of arms and stuff like that. So we had some in the house.
And so it's in the family, so you were exposed to that stuff.
It's genetic. Yeah.
Genetic? Okay.
Yeah.
And something in a hand, you know how to draw?
I mean, the jury's still out on that one. I think maybe I know how to draw.
I think you know how to draw.
I know how to doodle.
That's drawing.
Yeah. That's drawing.
Why 70s, 80s, 90s, by the way? Why specifically that?
I think that was just sort of like graphic design. Like, I think in the 80s and 90s, graphic design switched from something that was just like to convey a message, like to be like, this is where this thing is, or these are our hours, to being something a little bit more than that, where people started to put a little bit of panache on it. But it still looks really immature, like stuff from that era, you know, and sort of the advent of going from, you know, like having to be a draftsman, where you like have to be able to draw a straight line or whatever, to just being like, okay, well, we just have like, I don't even know if it was Illustrator back in the day, but something like some crappy graphics program, and then all this stuff just sort of looks really blocky and funny because anyone could have been a graphic designer, you know. So
that's so fun. I think it's got to be really nice to be able to embrace the fact that it can be goofy and maybe a little broken or fun or just like skewed, and because I don't like putting the pressure on myself of trying to make something perfect, like you're saying, or because if you accept the fact that you can in my case, for example, paint like an awkward pose, but you embrace the idea that it can be a little weird. And like you're saying with the designs that you like, it's nice because then it feels like there's a little less pressure.
Well, it might look weird to you, but nobody else knows what was going through your mind when you drew. So I try and think about that, because I will draw something to death. Like, I will redraw something 100 times and still hate it. But
so even though you're pursuing that, like you're saying, something that could have been, okay, the designs you're talking about that look like anyone could have done it. So there's this, I don't know, just like maybe playfulness. I don't know how else to describe it.
Well, it just has to look right, you know? I mean, it's sort of that thing where I was talking to somebody about this the other day with, you know, it's like you go to somebody and you're like, I need a logo, and you show them the Nike swoosh, which is probably one of the most iconic pieces of graphic design, but it's so simple, and I think they paid like $25 for it or something like that. And it's like I need something like this that's bold and you know, like, and it speaks to everybody, but it's like, how do you can't just tell somebody to like do the Nike swoosh, you know, right? It's something that just is an X factor, like I said, you know, you don't know how it.
You think it's organic, the way these things happen?
Yeah, or accidental maybe, or you know, like it's some of the best received designs that I've made are ones that I just like really doodled on a napkin and like then just digitized or whatever, and then people were like, this is unreal. Like, people have gotten tattoos of them. Damn. And I'm like, shit, I drew that in 3 minutes. You
Don't
know?
tell them. Well, now you did.
Well, but it doesn't matter, you know. It's like that speaks enough to somebody for them to like for them to like love it that much to like get it tattooed or whatever, or buy, you know, even buying something if that's $5 that has it on there, like that's, you know, that's crazy.
Man, these kind of cases always make me think of not overworking stuff, or just like letting that first idea and go with it, because usually in art schools, you know, they would teach you, you know, you're going to do 20 thumbnails and then you're going to pick one and you do 3 color versions of that. Mm-hmm. Sometimes it feels like you're killing the idea because you're just like keep going without having a reason to. I don't know, it's something you have to figure out by yourself, because sometimes maybe the first idea is the coolest and it's the freshest.
I think that, yeah, I mean, there's been a few times when I've designed something and, you know, felt like I designed it to death, and then I just went back to the drawing board and like the first iteration of it, and I'm like, that was actually pretty good. And then it's just like, it's only going through that whole process. And you know, that's the nice thing about working in Illustrator. And I remember watching a talk with Aaron Draplin from Draplin Design Co. He designed like the Field Notes books. Cool. He's a really good graphic designer, and just watching him workflow, and he's just constantly like copying the vector that he just made and like throwing it off to the side of his artboard, and he's like, vectors are free, and he just keeps on copying them. That's cool. And so like then you can go back and look at like all the stuff that you've done and what led you up to that point, and you're like, oh, this is where I took a left-hand turn, you know, and then you can kind of go back. And
that's awesome.
But yeah, you know, keep it simple, stupid.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
Just put it. And do you have that by your table or no?
Probably. It's probably buried under like 600 other pieces of paper, but yeah, I probably wrote that down somewhere.
I learned that in animation school. Yeah, funny thing about clients is they usually, if they're trying to overwork something, they usually go back to the first design. It's kind of that's an unfortunate thing about the industry. So many times this happened where you like work on a design, and then they at the end just like circles back to like, can we have it more simple? And you're like, oh yeah, like the first idea. Oh yeah.
Well, that sucks. Like designing by the process of elimination is tricky, where you're like, well, you can figure out really easily what you don't like when I show you 6 designs, but it's like you gotta pick something.
That's why it's cool to be you. Have the freedom. You do whatever you want.
Yeah, it's my cross to bear.
All right. You're either positive or optimistic, pessimistic about it. Let's get, I guess, to the beginning. So, like you're saying, from what I understand, you started Explorers Press in 2013, and I think I actually met you maybe around that time or just till after, because we used to share a fine art studio or studio space, and I'm trying to remember when I got into it, but I'm pretty sure you're already, maybe it was like...
I moved, so I was still in Toronto. I started the brand, I guess, end of 2012. Like, I branded it as Explorers Press in 2013. Okay. But, you know, I was starting to make stuff in 2012, 2011. But then, I moved back to Vancouver in 2015, I think. Yeah, 2015. So I was living, in Toronto for 6 years. Okay, so
maybe 2015, yeah. Did you think, when you're starting to do it in 2012, did you think that it could be a main thing you do for money making?
No.
For supporting yourself?
Not at all. No? It wasn't even really on my radar. It wasn't even a goal. I'd never thought that was what I wanted to do. Like, I knew I wanted to work in the creative field and I wanted to make art, and I never really was like, I've never been good at being like, here's my game plan and I'm going to do this and then this and then I'll be able to do this. I just was like, okay, I'm going to do I like look at the one thing that's right in front of me. No, I did not think that this was going to be what I ended up doing full time as a living, you know, making a very comfortable living off of it. It just ended up happening that way. Nice. And I'm grateful. I'm happy. I'm stoked, right?
what did you think your life would be? Did you have, or no plan at all? Like,
I don't know, work in the bike shop forever, I guess. I don't know. Work in the screen printer forever. I don't know. I mean, I've done so many different things, and it just kind of happens organically, and I'll fall into something, and then I'll like stop enjoying something, so I will let it go, and I will start something else. And who knows? Maybe like by this time next year, I'll be like a pipe fitter. I don't know. Maybe not. But I just like.
You're just gonna be making stuff still.
I go with the flow.
Yeah.
It's the easy, and it's easy. It's easy to say that. It's hard. It's hard when you're like, you have a real life, and you have to kind of be like, well, what if what if I need to plan for my future?
Yeah. Once all these big things start showing up, or you start being conscious of it.
Yeah.
Kind of planning for the future, I guess.
I mean, I can't speak for my dad, but I know that he was doing the commercial art thing, and he ended up moving into a different career, and he was a paramedic for like over 30 years, just because, he had the kids and just needed something that was maybe more stable. And, I find, and I can only speak for myself, but I find being creative can sometimes be really exhausting.
Totally.
Like you're putting a lot of yourself out there. You're putting a lot of yourself into the work, and it's like you can't shut off, like we talked about, or I can't shut off.
Oh no, I completely here with you. Yeah. It's hard to not do it, or you're kind of torturing yourself if you don't. Did your dad miss it? Do you know?
I don't know. He's a man of few words. He's I'm sure. I don't know.
Did he doodle at least during his free time? Do you know, or anything like that, or did he completely abandon that?
He's creative in other ways. My dad's my whole family's really creative. My sister's creative, my mother's creative, and he does lots of creative stuff. Maybe not drawing and painting, but he's got the craziest garden. And it's just like
that's
the craziest,
creative,
and it's like beautiful. It's really, I could just go out there and hang out. Like when they're out of town, they're going out of town like tomorrow, the next day.
You're gonna hang out in the garden.
Yeah, and I remember coming home from school in elementary school, and they had given us a little sapling, like a little tree, and he turned this thing into like a perfect bonsai. Wow. And he still has it. It's somewhere.
Mad skills.
Yeah, like what? I don't know how to.
Well, plus people say that's cathartic, right?
Like, it must be. Yeah, I don't know. I'm all right with plants. I wish I had inherited more of the green thumb, but
that's how I feel too.
Yeah, and maybe it's practice. The same thing as art, it's like a muscle. You just got to work it out.
Was there a time when you felt like when Explorers Press became big? I don't know, or like, did you feel like, okay, now this is getting like a serious thing. I have to quit my main job and do this. Was there?
Yeah, it felt a little bit like it blew up underneath me, and I didn't see it coming, kind of thing. And then I woke up one day, and so the thing was, I was working screen printers in Etobicoke, so it took me about an hour to get there. So I was waking up at 6 a.m, and I was dealing with Explorers Press stuff before I went to work, like packing orders.
Early bird.
Yeah. I always like getting up early. Dealing with emails and stuff, and then I go to work for 8 hours, like hard work, screen printing, like on your feet, running auto presses, reclaiming screens. Like didn't suck, but it was a hard job. And then I would, print my stuff at work, after work, on my own stuff for Explorers, and then go home, pack more orders, and like wake up and do it again the next day. And then, there was one point where I was like, man, I made more money last night when I was sleeping than I'm gonna make at work today. And like, I kind of think I need to just point my energy at this.
That's cool.
So at that point, the brand, I was still working full time, and the brand was already like doing its own thing, and I hadn't sunk a ton, like I wasn't in debt from starting up the company or whatever, and people were interested in it, and so it was just sort of like, okay, I think I need to just do this full time. And it was never like a leap of faith, because I was already seeing it working, and I was busting my ass.
Yeah, that's things. Awesome. That's awesome, because for example, if you want to pursue fine art and gallery shows, there isn't like this steady stream of sales, and you're kind of figuring it out, and then you just stop working because the nature of art shows and the amount of time it takes to prepare for it. If that's the way you choose to do it, like you can go half a year without any money, and then you're basically like, fingers crossed, hopefully when I put these pieces into an art in the gallery, hopefully they sell, which is why it seems like that leap is really hard to make.
Yeah, I mean, I never thought that I could do art full time. Like I always thought it was just gonna be something that was like a hobby. I guess I never really thought much about it, but with doing a brand and having something like that was steady, that was really cool. It was just like, it was kind of making the same amount of money every day, and it was sort of like an upward trend, and that was cool. And then I was learning about like e-commerce, which was sort of a new, e-commerce wasn't a new thing, but like independent e-commerce, independent brands were a new thing, a newish thing. Because like 10 years before that, like how did you start an independent brand? Like you put an ad in the back of a magazine or something? I don't know.
Things have changed fast. Yeah. So when you're saying through social media, and kind of that boost helped a lot as well. I guess like, were you noticing it on there as well? And actually, do you feel can you see the difference now? There's a lot of talk between artists I see about the algorithms that are on social media now, which kind of annoying.
Yeah, I mean, Instagram kind of went down the tubes in the last 2 years. But I mean, it got sold. I mean, that's the thing, is I can't fault anybody for like taking away my perfect free marketing tool. Like, somebody had to make money off of it, you know?
Well, and they were, though, like, even without you knowing.
Well, yeah, I mean, but the thing is, like, Instagram, I think that, you know, the whole game with that was just, like, user acquisition.
Yeah.
Like, okay, well, we have all these bajillion users, now we sell it to like, they sold it for $1 billion.
That's a lot of money.
Yeah, seriously. I need to think of an idea like that.
You gotta start an app that doesn't have ad, or what does it do? The algorithm?
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, they want you to pay, right? And the thing that frustrates me is, you know, the brand has 60,000 people that follow it, and you know, they've made the choice. They clicked follow, and then they don't see the stuff that I post because it gets pushed down, and like the people that pay get pushed to the top or whatever. And so that's frustrating. But at the same time, the same thing happened with Facebook, you know, and people stopped looking at Facebook, and then something else came along, which was Instagram. So I have faith that something else will come along that works. And
it basically, like, this is what it is, and you're either you worry about it or you don't, and you just kind of keep going.
I mean, I know a lot of people that are doing the same kind of thing as me, like independent brands. Like, we all put our eggs in that basket because we're like, this is how we communicate with our customers. And now that they're not, you know, people aren't seeing the stuff as much, like, yeah, if it's hurting everybody, and it's also just like, how do I adapt, you know?
Yeah.
And I do other stuff. I do like the mailing list, so I send out emails and whatever. I haven't had to like go door to door yet or anything, but
that's good.
Yeah, I don't know. And I'm lucky too, because a lot of stores picked up the brand. Like, I have 140 shops.
Did you contact them, or did they contact you?
Pretty much they all contacted me. Like,
man, that's awesome.
Yeah, because Instagram was just like this perfect portfolio, you know, and it was cool too because like all the customers were posting these rad photos. So there's like this content,
free marketing, and
it was just like really genuine and like this word of mouth thing, and it was really organic and just really nice, and like directly communicating with people that buy the stuff is really cool. You know, like really cool to just be like, somebody's like, I bought this thing, and they like send you a DM, and you're like, I made that. That's so cool.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And I think that
feeling,
after a while. No, I don't want to rant on, but after a while, people kind of lost sight of that. Like, after the brand got kind of big, and they're like, oh, like, started emailing me like I was Amazon Prime or something. And then I'm like, I'm just a dude. Like, I'm just making stuff.
Well, they don't even know. So you do a pretty good job of keeping your Instagram account, or I'm probably all social media, where it's like you, and then there's the work, you know, and then there's Explorers Press. Because you don't really, I don't know, do you see, I'm trying to remember, because I was looking at your photos. Like, it's not like I see you like you're popping up. It's like, hey, it's me. It now feels like a really professional endeavor. It's a real professional business, so I can see why people get that feeling. You know what I mean? I
think that part of the reason is that I like to leave the brand open for other people to kind of collaborate. And you know, I do whenever I have something that somebody else designed, I go like, this is a collaborative piece or whatever. But you know, it's like, I think it's important just for the brand to be its own entity, and for people to look at it and be like, this is the brand. People can come in and out, work with the brand, whatever, instead of just like, this brand is Brendan Megannety, you know, because it's not. It's like, it's, you know, and also like, I don't want to be stuck in the, you know, even though the theme of the brand is really loose, I don't want to just be stuck in that.
Did I mess up your name when I introduced you? How do you say your last name?
It's Megannety.
Megannety.
Yeah, it's a tricky one.
Where's that from?
It's Irish.
Okay, Megannety.
Yeah.
Dude, I'm sorry.
Oh, no.
Should have asked. The things I don't know. That's cool.
No offense.
Okay, let me get back on tracks here. We're talking about, and so is this a conscious choice, the way you're keeping your personal Instagram just like for fun times and just yourself?
Yeah, I mean, I post stuff on my personal Instagram that I probably wouldn't feel comfortable posting on Explorers Press because it's a really broad audience, and I do some weird stuff, like put my face on all these photos and like
so fun.
Yeah, you know, and it's like that's where I let loose, you know, that's where I like let my hair down, I guess.
Nice. Yeah. Something you touched on, how you're saying you like tactile things, and makes sense, your choices that you made, that you're actually creating these physical objects rather than just digital art, for example. Do you, since you started this, and then, you know, now in 2018, how do you see people's values and approach to handmade things change?
Yeah, I think that I think I need to be careful the way I answer this question. I mean, not everything I make is handmade. I used to make a lot more handmade stuff. I was like hand sewing pennants and tooling leather keychains and stuff like that. And unfortunately, the brand just got to a point where I couldn't keep up with the demand, and so that was tough. So like a lot of the stuff is mass produced, you know, and you know, I'm really careful about selecting like where and who makes the stuff, and like I try and get as much stuff made in Canada as I can, you know, keep the money in our local economy. I try and work with local artisans as much as I can. You know, some of the stuff's made overseas, whatever. But, you know, I've had, like, a friend of mine went over and he, you know, for instance, went to the factory where we make all our patches and made all the lapel pins and, like, you know, just made sure it was legit and made sure it wasn't, like, some crazy slave labor spot.
Sweatshop,
Yeah, so, but, you know, like, I think that I'm honored anytime that somebody buys something through the website. Like, they chose to spend their money that they worked hard to make, like, with my online store. That is crazy, you know. $5 like that, like even every time I get like a $5 sale, I'm not like, oh, just like, I'm like, damn, that's so crazy.
It is cool. No, but what I mean, well, even you mentioned the fact that when you make your designs or the way it feels handmade, even though it may not have been, but I think that just shows the amount of care that you put into it, even just from your presentation, the card, and like on the pins. It feels like you're very conscious of it feeling personalized, or it feels like it doesn't feel mass produced. It feels like there's care to it, and that's really cool.
I would like to think that, you know, I put some thought into, you know, even the packaging, and even, you know, a lot of our stuff, the backing cards for the patches and pins and all our hang tags are sort of this really nice craft green stock that's sort of almost become the color for the brand. And you know, and a lot of the items like have a slogan or a message, which I think really speaks to people, like the stuff about traveling and, you know, set no path, never lose your way, and just stuff like that. I think that the people are drawn to that. And then another part of the process is that I try and design for the process, as opposed to, you know, going and making this awesome illustration and having to dumb it down for embroidery. Like coming from background of production, like I know the limitations of embroidery. I know the limitations of a screen print and enamel work and stuff like that. So I try to design things for that process, and that's what leads to like these simple, nice designs.
That's
They're
cool.
Pleasing aesthetically.
Everything came together.
I guess so.
But what I meant from the when I was asking is from the people side, from the just day-to-day people. And once I guess I'm leading, but do you see people's relationship to, I guess these physical things and patches and pins change? Is it bigger now? Is it more popular now than it was when you started?
I think I don't want to duck your question a third time. I just simply don't know. I just kind of keep doing my own thing, and I've been really enjoying bumper stickers. I've been making bumper stickers because you can put whatever the hell you want on a bumper sticker, and people love it. Because they don't have to put it on anything, you know? But I don't know. I mean, we sell the same kinds of products. I've been doing a few different things. I started doing bolo ties in the last little bit because I was like spending time down in California and Phoenix, like Arizona and stuff. And I was like seeing all this cool stuff, and I'm like, this is a cool thing. I want to make that. Yeah. And so, I mean, I don't know. I mean, people still seem to be buying the stuff. People still seem to be sending in photos of them wearing the stuff. I mean, the idea that somebody would take the time to sew a patch onto their bag that I made is really cool.
I think so. That's what that's how I feel as well.
Yeah, that's crazy, you know? And I guess I've been on the other side for so long collecting that stuff, and now having the store where I get to buy stuff from other brands and like curate this shop of like the little trinkets that I like.
Sweet.
So the whole thing is cool, you know.
That seems like
and people get to walk in there and be like, oh, well, like I know your stuff, Explorers Press, but like look at all this other stuff, and it gets to be a platform where I get to raise up all these other brands, which is
that's
cool.
a pretty clever idea. And you said you started that pretty recently.
Yeah, we opened in October of last year.
Nice.
So Marie, my partner, had the space with somebody else, and before that it was actually a gallery, and I had my eye on the space when the owner of the gallery closed down. I sent her a message. I was like, I really want to, and they had already snatched it up. But one of the partners left, and so I got to take over in October, and we reopened, and it's been really, really fun and really good. And added a social element to my career, which is cool because before it's just everything's on the computer, and now getting people can come in and talk to me face to face.
Where's the space?
It's at Pender and Columbia, 436 Columbia Street, just off of Pender.
And you said it used to be a gallery?
Yeah, it was Untitled Gallery.
Oh yeah. So
Lawrence.
The positive negative before that.
Positive negative before that, and then I mean Stefan had it as Serpents. So he was in the studio with us.
That place shifted, many times.
Yeah, people still come in there like, I thought this was a gallery, and it's like it.
Would you do art shows there, or is that
pop-ups more?
It's gone.
Yeah. I mean, we just don't have the wall space anymore. It's just full of products now. And then both of our studios are in the back. My partner Marie is a jeweler. Her company is called Wasted Effort, and she makes a bunch of really cool stuff. She makes candles in the back, so it always smells really good in there.
It's a bonus.
Yeah, and then I just ship everything for the brand from the back there, and do my thing. So
yeah, sweet. I'll have to stop by. When you're talking about making art accessible, I made a note. I remember I recently watched the video. I was Tyler the Creator. I don't know if you follow the guy.
Oh, was the claymation one?
I saw that. That was pretty fun.
Yeah.
No, but there was an interview and he was talking about how he's been trying to get into the clothing field and like I don't know, creating fashion pieces and hopefully creating like everyday wear. But he was saying how he's trying to graduate eventually to getting to make like $5,000 purses. But he's like, but my audience is not there yet. But I just thought it was such a it feels so out there. It's so different that his goal is actually to make like super fancy, like fine leather, expensive things. And I don't know how I feel about that. I guess as an artist, it's really cool that you can create something like that. But then when you talked about accessibility, I'm like,
you're ceasing to make it accessible. You're like alienating your
like
your
who's your
fans,
audience then, right? The reality is you have to understand that.
And I mean, there's nothing wrong with that, you know. There's things that I like that are fine items, you know, like a really nice jacket or something, you know. I don't know what a good example of that is, but like, there's things that I have a high perceived value of, but I'm not the kind of person that buys a $500 pair of sunglasses. You know, that's just not me. And but there's other things like there's other things that I like, you know, like that I spend money on like nice clothes that will last a long time because like I enjoy having stuff that I don't have to buy every 3 months, you know. Like I have a belt that cost me $120, but I've had it for 6 years, you know, like that sort of thing.
I like that.
Yeah. So, I mean, but then at the same time, the stuff that I make, I've just tried to keep it as inexpensive as possible, simply because I want it to be accessible for everybody, right?
That's a dilemma I have, and the artists I see that either as you're trying to become bigger with that, whatever that means, especially in the fine art world, the reality is you just have to keep those prices up, and it feels like it's not uncomfortable, but it's an odd thing because I know, for example, this could have taken me 60 hours, you know, so ideally it would be cool to get, let's say, paid for that time. Once again, there's a value.
Like $1 an hour would be nice, you know,
or whatever. But then on the other hand, I don't exactly feel comfortable charging people like $4,000 for painting. It seems I can see people doing it, and that naturally changes your crowd and the audience that comes to you. But that seems to me it is a dilemma of as you grow and you want to bring up the value not just for yourself but for people who are collecting your work. You have to think about them as well. It's not just you making those decisions. Then
I mean, there's a whole market behind it, you know, and it's like an industry, which is wild, you know. It's like
totally,
I don't know. I mean, I find I have a hard time valuing my time because it's like, to me it's like, oh, my time's worthless, you know.
That's how I feel, but it's not a good approach. Well, at least
it's
in
a horrible
my case,
approach, you know. But then because I work as I do graphic design work for people, and I feel so bad charging them because I'm like, well, for me this is easy, you know. Like for me, like doing like laying something out is really simple because I've been doing it for a long time. But like, they're like but I can't cook a steak, you know. So I walk into a restaurant and my mindset's not like, oh, that steak only costs $7.
You only apply that to yourself, right?
Yeah. You know. So I feel horrible like charging people, but then I'm like, their time is better suited elsewhere, and my time is, I'm efficient at what I do. So
this is like growing pains, basically. You have to like become an adult and start charging people.
Yeah, or like being confident in that you are worth.
You're worth it.
Yeah, you're worth the charge.
Yeah.
Like having a little esteem in yourself, right? And that's tough, because it's
as an artist.
As an artist, yeah, and even I just want to be humble and be like, I'm not the best graphic designer in the world, and whatever. So, I don't know. Yeah, it's hard. It's hard like having something creative and then having to charge money for it.
Yeah.
And so with the brand, it's like I've always just like sold the patches for like $5 or $6, pins for like $5 or $6, $20 for a shirt, like just because I think that's important, It's like I'm not trying to gouge anybody, and like I'm not trying to just like, I don't want to be like, I'm not trying to be some mogul. Like I just want to have you have the stuff, I want you to see, like, I want to see that stuff get out there, and it makes the decision easier for people when they're not like, oh, this is really cool, but it's $14 and it's like a patch, And I've spent $14. I've spent like $25 on a patch because I'm like, this is so fucking cool, but awesome. I had to have it. But and we were talking about before we went on the air, like I think it's important to support other people doing a thing. Like I can't just make my living off of this industry and then not kind of put some of that back in there, So I try and buy as much product and as much art as I can, you know. And
Yeah, and until you like, then it's just I guess about upgrading your bank account. Because I don't know, sometimes I go to art shows and it's like, oh man, I want to have this painting. How much is this? Oh, 3,000. I don't know. I don't think I'm there yet to just throw money on a painting that costs that, but hopefully one day, because I do want to support these other artists as well. You know. It's just,
yeah, I mean, even being there is that support,
Yeah.
you know, and like showing up. And
you've done some. You said you've done some art shows, and you're saying you want to do some soon. Is that the plan?
yeah, I mean, I used to be involved in a lot more art shows. I'm more based around photography, but I have done shown like paintings, mixed media stuff, and yeah, I mean, I've kind of been creating a really super loose body of work over the last few years, and you know, it's mostly just sort of like, you know, some installation stuff, and you know, just like creating things and making signs that are not real, they're not for anybody or anything, but they're just like signs that I made. And I made this like 20-foot long tall tee, like I don't know if you remember those from the early 2000s, like the really tall t-shirts. I made a 20-foot tall one, and so
And how do you display that?
I really want to hang. I don't want to, you know, I don't want to like. I don't want to like.
No spoilers.
But I want to have a fan underneath it, so it's kind of billowing and like hanging in a really tall, like a space with really tall ceilings.
Where are we going to see that? Is there?
Probably, you know, like the Guggenheim or
Okay,
know, somewhere, you know, the. Yeah,
I can see
De
that.
Young, yeah, no, somewhere. I don't know. Whoever will have me, I guess maybe like in the alley behind my shop or whatever.
Guggenheim. Is that?
I don't know. Never been.
That's LA. You haven't been?
No, I haven't been.
Wait, I'm trying to think. Is that the one on the hill, Guggenheim? Trying to remember. Because I want. What was it?
Let's look it up.
They recently made a movie about. Who's the Getty? Oh no, I'm thinking the Getty. I may have. Oh, actually, I've been to the Guggenheim, but the Getty. I don't know if you've been to that gallery. It's really
Guggenheim's
beautiful.
in New York.
New York? Okay,
I've only been in New York twice, 3 times.
nice.
Yeah.
Actually, I saw you travel quite a lot. You have an affinity for traveling.
Yeah, I get out of here as often as I can, especially in the winter, because it is a bummer here in the winter.
Yeah.
Yeah, I try and get away when I can, and you know, I am lucky enough that a lot of times I get to go away for work.
Mm-hmm. Which is for usually graphic design. Is that what?
Whatever. Like, you know, have meetings, or pop in on stores that I deal with, or you know, I did some design work for a few clients in Toronto last summer, so I was back and forth a lot. It was for a music festival with Red Bull, and so, you know, I got to go back for that. Really cool project, really fun. And you know, I was lucky enough they brought me back out there to actually just attend the music festival, which was really cool.
Nice.
So.
Yeah.
That stuff's rad. Yeah, I mean, I just like leaving because then it feels good when you come back, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just nice. I feel like I am most creative when I'm just sort of like somewhere else and just absorbing. Sort of. I take a lot of photos. Take a lot of phone pictures.
So you still pursue photography?
No, just like not even like from an artistic standpoint, but just like just cataloging stuff that I see. Like that's what I do now. And I do take photos. I take, you know, bring the film camera out with me and stuff, but like I really just like taking pictures of like colors and stuff that I see, or like weird old logos or old painted signs and weird crappy like slot machine stuff and like just everything.
Yeah, you have a cool interest, and I think that's why when you're talking about those zines, I imagine they felt curated just because of the interests. You know, like you're talking about like the pool hall stuff.
Yeah, I mean, like, because everything has graphic design and everything has design.
Mm-hmm.
Everything, you know, graphic design touches every part of, you know, life, right, or whatever, every part of the society, because like everything has a design associated with it. Like everything has a logo. And you know, for me, like I spend a lot of time in the pool hall, so you see these like cool, like weird. I remember going to this into this pool hall in San Jose, California. No, it was San Jose. And they had all these little like swiveling bar stools that were tacked to the floor, and the back of each one was circular, and it was each painted like a different like pool ball, you know, billiard ball. And I was like, man, that is so smart. And I don't think anybody was like, this is my magnum opus, you know, but to me it was so beautiful. So that was
got that attention for detail.
Yeah. I like the detail.
Speaking of travel, how come you actually, I don't think I asked you, why did you move out to Vancouver from Toronto?
I just wanted to be closer to my family. I was living in Toronto for, you know, I was like 19 or 20 when I moved out. And then, my parents are here.
So you were born in Vancouver then?
I was born here, yes.
Oh, okay.
And, actually the rest of my family is out in Toronto. So I got to, living there, I got to spend a lot of time with my extended family, which was awesome. We became really close. But, I just miss being close to my parents. And, like my dad was getting ready to retire, and so I was going to get to spend more time with him. And, I just felt like I hadn't got to spend that much time with them as an adult. I moved out and I was still kind of a kid, and then I wanted to come back here and just sort of like come back to where I grew up, and I wasn't really sure if it was permanent or whatever, and then I ended up getting sick. I got diagnosed with cancer like 6 months after I moved back here, so I kind of got stuck here.
Wow.
Yeah.
That timing.
I mean, I'm not unhappy that I live here, but yeah, sometimes it feels a little bit confining. Because I have continuing care and stuff here. So that is a big part of the reason that I'm still here. And, I love being close to my parents, and I hang out with them like all the time.
That's cool. And are you do you think you can only do that now as you're older? Because you actually moved away in Toronto. It's like, I don't want to see you hang out with you guys now.
Yeah, I mean, I was just kind of like a bratty kid or whatever when I moved to Toronto. So, yeah, I mean, now my parents treat me like an adult, which is really nice. Like, shout out mom and dad for treating me like a human, like an adult human.
Before we get into that part of your life and being sick, it must have been well, I don't know, but I'm sure it must have been.
Yeah, it wasn't fun.
No.
Here, I'm gonna take off my hoodie. It's cooking in here.
All right, while you do that, but I want to ask you about the art scene in Toronto, and especially being closer to Montreal. I barely, you could say, been to Toronto. I would love to explore, but from what I hear, just the art seems bigger, better there, like on the East Coast. Do you feel like
better
that?
is the right word?
Oh, maybe it's not what I mean better, but more places to show art, more festivals, more galleries.
I think so. I think that it is. There's twice as many people there. There's more stuff going on. It feels like there's a lot more happening there. I mean, I find for me now a lot of art has to do with like being on the internet, right? So it's like it's kind of this worldwide audience that I have. But yeah, in terms of like physical places where you can have an art show or like go and look at cool art or like just a creative space or really interesting studios. Yeah, like Toronto's got a lot more. Montreal is, in my opinion, like the Mecca, because it's just so cheap to live there. And it's like you don't have to do.
It's the artist land.
Yeah, but there's drawbacks too, But I mean, I like being here because it's just like it's a really good platform to like. I go into California a lot because I have friends there and it's warm and I get to. It's really easy to get to California from here, which I like. Or I can just drive down to Seattle or Portland for the day or for an evening, But yeah, I mean, Toronto's awesome, and I am really lucky because I get to go back and forth all the time. And
yeah, I was gonna say so you don't miss it because you can actually get to go, and so you're traveling always. It's not like you miss being back there, or do you?
I mean, I miss my friends. I miss my friends, and I get to go, and it's a privilege to be able to get to go like. Every month, pretty much. Like I'm actually fly to Toronto on next Thursday, so in a couple days.
Nice.
But I miss my friends. I miss my family, but I get to see them fairly often. I don't miss the city.
No, not at all.
Sometimes in the summer, it's kind of nice. It's nice during the summer. There's like stuff happening. It just feels really lively. You walk down Dundas Street on like a Thursday night, and it's just happening, And there's so many little galleries. And you just pop in, and you see all these people, and. It's awesome, but like it's because I did all my growing up there, and here it's just like I kind of put my head down since I moved back, and dealing with the health stuff, I didn't like have a huge social life, and now I just kind of like work, and I work from home, and I work on my own, and the shop is sort of breaking me out of my little shell, I guess, because people can come in and talk to me.
Vancouver is definitely a pretty good place to put your head down because it's very easy to, especially with the half a year of rain.
Yeah, it's just raining all the time, so you don't want to leave your house.
Yeah, just get to work. So for everyone out there who's not from Vancouver, if you want to get some work done, you know where to go.
Yeah, move here if you can afford it. Yeah.
Yeah, good point. But is it the same in Toronto during winters, or do people still get out?
Yeah, no, it's dead in the winter. It's just people. You go to the bar that is closest to your house because it's like it's frozen city. I mean, it's nice because it's like the weather we've been having here for the last couple of days. It's cold, but it's sunny. So it's like at least you get that infusion of vitamin D, and it sort of like helps you not be depressed. But yeah, I mean, the winter sucks. But then it's like March rolls around, and then it's like shorts weather. Like it's so weird. There's two seasons there. And then it'll snow again. It's so bizarre. But there's not as much happening in the winter, and that's sort of when I would just sort of put my head down and like create stuff.
Nice.
Yeah.
Is there any favorite artists that come up from your travels? Because I like it's called Explorer Express, so you're I imagine all about that, and I guess in many different ways, like you're saying, it's not just about traveling, but as you're, I guess, just opening up your mind to the world, is that how you could say it? Just like experiencing more and seeing more artists. Is there any artists that stand out, and was that beneficial, do you think?
Yeah. So I've always been a big, since high school, I've been a big Barry McGee fan. Like
the
Twist.
Markers? Is that the guy?
He does he's a graffiti writer.
Okay.
Twist, but he does like fine art stuff, like sort of pattern stuff. Amazing artist. San Francisco-based dude, and I was in San Francisco a couple years ago, and he had a show in the Mission, and so it was the gallery, and it had all these paintings, and he had painted all these surfboards, and he had painted all these panels with the patterns, and it was really cool, and like his gallery stuff, and it's really like visually appealing, and I love it, but it's not the be all and end all for me in terms of art. But the second part of this show was you went through this little like trap door. It was like a half door. You get to like duck to get through it. And then you're inside of this check cashing place that had been, they had leased it for this show. And then there was just like stuff everywhere, and they had made these neons, they had videos looping, and there was just like stuff all over the place. And it was so cool because it looked like my studio at home. There's just like stuff floor to ceiling, really crazy. And that show really kind of charged me up creatively. So yeah.
Is it because of that installation, kind of the out of the box thinking?
Yeah, it was kind of like, okay, well, I'm going to have this cool gallery show, and I'm sure he sells those paintings for like a pretty penny, but
nice.
And then you like go in, and then there's all this other stuff, and none of it was for sale, and it was just like, I didn't get to go to the opening, it wasn't there, but it was like, I think they just had a big party.
Wow.
and it was just like, it's like graffiti stuff, and like, all that stuff's cool, and it was just sort of like, it's cool because it reminded me, like you have the big art shows so that you can have this party or whatever, so you can have this like life. And that was cool to like see that, I enjoyed that show a lot.
I always love when people put that extra personality or care into their art show. So it's not just, paintings on the wall, but hopefully you can show us a little bit more, either about yourself or the message, the theme.
Well, something that's interactive.
Yeah.
Too.
Hopefully we'll be doing a show in July, and I'm trying to really think about what else I can do that takes a little bit farther, like a step farther to whatever that is, whether it's a little room or something that feels like, I don't know, it has personality and also stands out, because, there's could be a lot of art shows, or hopefully you also make it memorable for people. Right?
You should rent like a tiger.
Rent a tiger?
And have it change.
No, I think what I should do is I should take your shirt. We'll do a collaborative installation.
You can't steal that idea.
I'm not stealing it. I'm going to put your name on it.
Patent pending.
That's what I'm going to use you to get people to come to my art show. There's going to be this 20-foot shirt floating off of the door,
I always thought it would be good to have one of those inflatable waving tube men in front of your art show that just have like art show on the front, and just like bring people in, or have one of those guys that spins the signs around like over on Kingsway. It says like art show today only, and just promote it the old-fashioned way.
You're smart. People don't do that anymore, so I'll paint up the guy.
That's why they pay me the big bucks,
Full of ideas. I just gave it away to everyone. So
that one's free.
But no, don't do that. If we're gonna see you stealing that idea, we know where you got it from. So you just I was laughing. Anyways, we're going down the darker road. You mentioned after having moved back to Vancouver 6 months after you figure out or find out that you had cancer.
Oh yeah. So I found out I had cancer like right after Christmas. It was Boxing Day, 2015, I guess.
And at that time, so 2015, you're already doing your Explorers Press. You're probably pretty strong into
the art. It had been my full-time job for like 2 years at that point. A year and a half, 2 years. And then I kind of like got this bombshell dropped on me, and then so I had to deal with all that stuff. Like obviously there's the you find out you have cancer, and that's devastating emotionally. But then you also have to deal with. I had surgeries and I had chemotherapy and all that stuff. So it's I
remember seeing you like
those times, we had the studio together that time, and I was just like, my hair was falling out, and I'm like trying to pack orders, and my hair is like falling into the envelopes.
You kept going with it though, right? You didn't stop.
I kind of didn't really have a choice, I couldn't just sink my business because I was sick, and it gave me some motivation to like get up and out of the house every day. And I was it was really convenient that I was just living really close to the studio and close to the hospital and close to my parents' house. So like, I was like, it wasn't like I was busing an hour to get to the hospital every day, and I did what I could, but yeah, that sucked, man. Yeah. Like I would not wish that on my worst enemy. That was a really crummy time, but also a really interesting time because that was the best year that my business ever had.
At the same time? Wow.
Yeah.
Think about that.
Like
that was just life being messed up.
Like it was like everything was so good. but I had cancer.
I guess that's why you didn't stop working. Damn.
Well, yeah. And I mean, it was like, you know, it helped to be like, okay, well, I still have a life. You know, I still have this thing that I can do. Like, if I had a regular job, I would have had to quit. And then I would have just had to move in with my parents. And that probably would have made things a lot worse. Like, I probably would have been just, like, really depressed because I couldn't do anything.
Well, it would almost be giving up. And it's like you're saying before, as an artist, you can't not make art, right? It's
Yeah, I mean, I didn't feel that creative in that time, but
No.
I had, the brand had some momentum, you know, and I was selling this. I did do some creative things. People were like, why don't you make some creative stuff around having cancer? But like, I felt so, it was hard. It was really hard to, you know, eventually I had to kind of deal with all that stuff. But at the time it didn't feel like, I didn't feel juiced creatively like through the process. Like, and especially like your body's like not making hormones, you're depressed. Like, it sucks.
I was gonna say, I imagine only people who went through it can probably relate to that experience.
Yeah, I mean, I hope nobody has to go through it. But yeah, you know, it's like, it's hard, man. That stuff, so, you know. But then it's like you learn and you grow up, and you grow up the hard way, like having something like that happen. But it was an experience.
Did that give you a new perspective on life?
Kind of. I mean, not in the most positive way. Some ways, you know, like I'm grateful for like the time that I have, and you know, made me realize I don't have all the time in the world. But yeah, I mean, it's like I didn't come out of it feeling really positive about the experience.
Really? Was it?
No.
Why?
I think that, I mean, because it's like, it's traumatic. Right?
Yeah.
And it's like, I felt, you know, like a lot of people have actually asked me that question, like, oh, do you have a new lease on life because you had cancer? And like, simply that I thought there was something wrong with me because I didn't have that experience, but I found out that it's just like, that's just not how I experienced. That's not what my experience was with it. And there's nothing wrong with that, you know? And like, yeah. And, you know, looking back on it now, like getting to be of service to other people because I had cancer, and, you know, I had a young woman that was working for me, and, unfortunately her dad got diagnosed with cancer. And, you know, for me to be able to be like, you know, and she had only been working for me for like a couple months. And so we didn't know each other super, super well, but you know, I gave her a hug and I was like, I'm so sorry, and here are some things that we can do that'll like actually help him like get through this, because I had been there and I didn't know exactly what he was going through, but I had a pretty good idea. So I'd be like, why don't we put together a little care package of some things that help me? And so that was really cool.
Nice.
Like, that was the first time that I was like, okay, well, like,
you're like able to give back.
That was a positive thing I could pull out of that. But yeah, I mean, like if I go back, like I would definitely have not. I would choose to like not have cancer if there was a choice. You know, I would take the easier way out.
Was your like was your like mindset after it's like, well, life is fucked up?
Life's not fucked up. Life's just like real, you know. And
it's real, man.
It's like, you know, I don't know. I feel like I'm a pretty decent person, and like it sucks that it happened. You know, I had a friend that passed away while I was in treatment. She passed away, and she had cancer for years. You know, and like that was tough. You know, just like stuff like that.
Yeah.
But yeah. I mean, I try and just like, it puts a lot of things in perspective where I'm like, oh, should I go on this trip and it's gonna cost this much money? And I'm like, man, yeah, I'm gonna go. Like I had, you know, like I could not be here right now.
You're like learning to focus on the right things, kind of, or
and I mean, really, like you don't know how much time you have left. You know, had a friend pass away a couple weeks ago in a really tragic scooter accident over in Thailand. Really good dude, you know, and we grew up together, and just like that sort of thing, you know. And it's so sad, but it just makes me think, well, like, the dude was over there like having so much fun and like living it up, and it's like,
how long was he there? Do you know? Was it like a long trip?
He had been there for like a month.
Oh, wow.
So, and then it's just like, it was really tragic, and I really feel for his family. But you know, it's like the dude was like living it to the max, and that's all you can do, right?
Yeah, and like you're saying, you never know.
Yeah, you never know.
Do you when you wake up in the morning, is there things you think about to motivate yourself?
Well, I drink coffee, so
that's motivation.
That's why I get out of bed, so I can have a nice cup of coffee. I try and like look at other, like what else is going on like in the creative world, to try and get juiced up, you know, and things that inspire me. Like I find if I feel good, then that's when I feel creative, you know. So like if I'm like, I have some back problems just sort of stemming from having surgery.
And do you want to stand, or are you okay there?
No, I'm good. Yeah, my back's doing good today. So I like stretch, and I find that more than anything just makes me feel like it sets me up for like a good day.
Nice.
Just like, so
gotta go to yoga.
And when we sit, like you and I, we sit like, I sit at a desk and I sit like, you know, and I draw and I hunch, like, and my nose is like 1 inch from the paper, and I don't take care of my body. So it's like things like that where like nobody, I don't think I would have ever been like, oh, like stretching increases your creativity, but like now for me it does.
Your answer to the fact that when you wake up you think about coffee means you're probably having a pretty good life. The only reason I say that is I remember before I was working in the art field, like you're saying, did odd jobs. It was a cook for a while. One summer I did construction, and those days were, and I remember even for some reason some parts of school, but I remember those days when you wake up and you're like, nothing good, like I can't think of anything fun that's gonna happen today, or like anything good, especially maybe that's part of being a creative and the fact that you feel good when you actually get to make things. So I just remember those days, and where now when I wake up, I don't know, we just think of a day, make coffee and go. But I think it's probably a good sign that it's not like you're waking up to some motivational quote, but it's just you wake up and I don't know, things are good.
I mean, I think about like waking up and like when I made the transition from working in the bike shop to working in the print shop,
Mm-hmm.
and I made no money at the beginning of the print shop, and like thinking about like practical things that stressed me out because like I didn't have enough money to get a subway token to get to work.
Ooh, yeah.
Like that.
That-
And I was
yeah.
too proud to like ask anybody for help, you know,
Mhm.
because I had like, you know, I'd been pretty comfortable like with my career before, and then I was just like, hey, time to switch it up. And sitting there and being like, how the fuck am I gonna get to work this week, you know, like, and
Yeah.
that sort of thing. And like I am blessed that I don't have to like worry about that now. I'm not like, ooh, like how am I gonna feed myself this week? And like, you know, I lost like I was like literally a starving artist for like a year, and I was like just losing weight because like all I could make was like peanut butter sandwiches
Wow.
and like a lentil stew that would last me a week and not eat breakfast.
You went through the real deal, the real experience.
Yeah.
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 Not eating breakfast, people say it could be good for you. Who
I eat
knows these
breakfast
days?
every day now.
Oh,
It's
there you go.
to me, I mean, I don't know if it's true or not. To me, it's the most important meal of the day. So
They say that too. Who knows? People say a lot of things.
I just find that I can't. My brain doesn't get going until I put some food in my belly. So
And a little coffee in there too.
it's like 3 coffees.
Do you feel successful now?
Oh man, that's a tough question. I mean, yeah. I mean, I feel like on paper, sure. Like I feel like, you know, I get to work in the creative field and you know, make a living off of it. And all throughout my teenage years, that's what I thought success was. Do I think I'm successful now? Like, I don't always feel successful. Like I always feel like there's one more step that I could go, or like, you know, there's like, what about this? But I feel happy. I feel
There you go.
fulfilled, you know.
Yeah.
I feel good about what I do, and I feel like, you know, sometimes I struggle with like, is what I do socially responsible, you know?
Mm.
My dad was a paramedic, like
Yeah.
hero, you know. So
The back of your head.
and I'm
Yeah.
sitting here and I'm like, and I'm thinking up stupid bumper stickers. But I had like people write me letters and be like, you've inspired me to like go ahead and start my own company or be, you know, a designer or do whatever. And like, I remember being in high school and going to El Cartel and buying this DVD, and it's called Dithers, and it was like, it had all these artists from like New York and San Francisco, and it was just sort of showing their studios and them talking about their creative process, and that was what inspired me to like go and do, you know, and like want to kind of create art. And so like if I can be that for like one person,
Mhm.
then hell yeah, my job's socially responsible, you know.
That's
But yeah, that's
yeah.
something I struggle with, because I'm like, should I go and like, you know, work in the hospital or whatever,
yeah,
like
yeah.
give back to like, you know, I do like I don't want to talk about it, but like I do things that are I like, you know, I donate or whatever.
Mhm,
I donate
yeah,
my
yeah.
time, like that kind of thing. So
That's especially for an artist. That's a good thing to think about. But also, like you're saying, it can be a struggle because sometimes you don't see the ways that you're helping, and maybe it could be. I remember who I talked to about that, and they're saying how you're going to be most useful to society when you get to do the thing that you really love, because you're going to put like 150% into it rather than something you're kind of half care about. Meaning like you're in the society we live in. Like if you like this one thing and you're, I don't know, lucky, fortunate enough to pursue it because of your like the passion for it, you're going to give it so much more than anything else that you would. And like you're saying, these other ways that whether you're an artist, you know, there's other ways that your work affects other people and just don't even realize it.
yeah,
Well,
yeah. And I
hopefully
mean,
maybe that's optimistic, but I hope that's part of it as well.
I mean, you know, like I said, like I've been lucky enough for people to come out and tell me that like they're like, you're inspiring, and that's cool, you know.
Mhm.
And I try not to get a big head about it, but it's like that's important for me to hear it, because it's like that keeps me going. Because like, you know, there's days where I sit there and I'm like, man, I'm a sham and I suck at what I do, and I'm sure every
Classic
artist
artist, yeah.
has that, you know. I remember hearing somebody, it was one of the performers on SNL, and she was talking about sitting down with a therapist and her being like, I feel like people are going to find out that I like suck at what I do and that I'm not a good actor and I'm not funny. And the therapist is like, oh, that's just called the imposter complex. Like that's
Oh,
a
yeah.
thing, you
There
know?
you go.
And I sat there and I was like, oh, like, well, you know, I think every creative person has that, because it's like we live in this subjective world,
Mhm.
right? Where it's not like, it's not like you're a mailman, and if you deliver X amount of letters that day, then you like fulfilled your duty.
Yeah.
You know, like for us, it's like this weird intangible thing.
Yeah,
So.
it never stops.
Yeah.
But I guess once you give it a name, and maybe it's a little easier to this issue that we have, like you're saying.
Yeah, I guess so. Or just like knowing that that's bullshit, and that's not, you know, like that's just your own brain just being like, just trying to sabotage you.
Yeah, stop telling yourself you suck. So do you have rituals or kind of tricks that you do, routines that you do for yourself to be, I don't know, in a good mood and more creative and efficient? Is there anything else apart from your saying feeling good and stretching?
Yeah, I mean, I try and like leaf through books, and I try and doodle as much as I can on paper. I find the paper and like working on paper and like with something that sort of, you know, has some feedback is important to me. Like it makes me feel a little bit more connected to the work. I try not to just work in Illustrator all the time, even though that's sort of where the finished design usually ends up. I try and work as much like on paper with my hands as I can. And I just find it easier because that's sort of how I started. But
I love that. I hope, but I definitely have a bias because
you're a painter.
I like painting with things. Well, but also not, you know, it's not my full-time job, but I do really, and maybe that makes it even more enjoyable. The fact that I, you know, if I'm by the computer all day, it's just so much more satisfying to throw some paint on canvases. For whatever reason, still don't know why, but I like painting.
Well, yeah, because you're like creating something that's like it's at a 3D object.
Yeah, and you can hold it, and it's not perfect. That's
I just like the way it feels. I like the way it looks. Like I don't know, it's there's like that's why I like screen printing, you know, because you take this perfect design and then you like push ink through a screen, and it creates these imperfections that then makes it awesome.
Which are so cool. I love those imperfections, especially in the screen printing.
Yeah, and it's cool like watching how the print changes like through the run and all that stuff. And like I mean, I remember like looking up test shirts on eBay where they would have like all these shirts from printing houses where they had printed like 10 different prints over top of each other, and see like, you know, and you see all the registration marks and you see all that stuff, and like to me I was like, that is so cool. And it's like you never wear it. It's not like a cool shirt, but I'm like, I love the behind the scenes. I love the process.
And it makes it more unique, right? Unlike 10,000 shirts that are out there with that image, but it's actually, there, like you're saying, there's a story. It feels very interesting. It's like if you were to get, I went to Escher exhibition around New Year's, and the way he worked, which was actually very fascinating, that he would go at a certain time. He would do nightscapes. So I'm pretty sure he would wear like a light bulb on his head. He would go and like draw nightscapes. I think of Italy. He really loved that place. And so, but it never stopped there. He always, or most of the time, it seemed like he turned his art into lithographs or woodcuts before displaying it. I thought it was so much commitment to, because it could have ended at a drawing, and they displayed some of his drawings. They're crazy. Like they're beautiful.
And they're like.
But then
insane.
Yeah, but he never stopped. You know, he kept going to, and I wonder if he actually had a similar mindset to yourself, because he went to lithograph or woodcut, because then he could make, let's say, 50 copies of it, 100 copies, which either makes it accessible. I don't remember if I read the explanation for why he specifically did that, but I thought it was, this kind of these steps that he took, the amount of work to then like go through a print. What I was saying on this topic is that it would be I think it'd be so much cooler to get the actual woodcut or the actual lithograph rather than the print, because you got this thing that made these other 100 things, and it's so special. And maybe, I guess you would frame it. It may not look as cool as the final print on paper because there's more contrast, but the story of that woodcut probably, I've never seen one, but probably be way cooler. I don't know, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny that you brought up Escher, because like Escher and Durr and like, you know, all those fine artists from like that period, like we had all those books when I was growing up, and I would just kind of pour over those and
good inspiration.
Yeah, I mean, just like the level of and like Audubon, and my I remember hearing a story about like you know, Audubon, like the birds and all the, like he used to do the etched copper plates of like the bird, like all these different kinds of birds and animals and all this stuff. Anyways, and so he made.
But they're very stylized, right? That was like very.
Like no background, just like a little.
Cool. Yeah, I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
And then like I guess, you know, so that was his thing, and like you know, that time it was just like that was to show people what this thing looked like, because like you couldn't print a photograph on paper, right? So it was like something that was like. It was obviously artistic, but whether they considered it fine art or not, it was like just to show people like what this thing looked like. And then, you know, they ended up selling off a bunch of these plates for like scrap metal, and somebody recovered a bunch of them. Like, you know, I'm sure thousands of them were destroyed. But it's funny how you go like, oh, this is just something to convey like a message to somebody. It wasn't like, oh, this is me putting my art out there.
But it's why the value of art, it does take time for certain things to for people to realize either there's value and whether it's artificial, set by the market, or whether it's actually reality.
Yeah, well, and I mean, it's like you never know, like, like Van Gogh, like it's like nobody knew, right? And at the time, but it's like, I'm telling you right now, if you're listening to this, my art is valuable, so buy it now.
That's right. Yeah, don't wait 100 years.
Don't wait till I'm dead.
Why would you?
Yeah.
Otherwise, where is that gonna go? Yeah, but that's why you hear these stories, because the art wasn't so valued, or just somewhere in an attic, and then people find it's like, oh, look at this. That's because back then nobody cared. And as an artist, back to the conversation, if you're not selling and you're producing work, well, same thing is probably happening. Right now, there's thousands, probably millions of artists out there who are just stashing stuff in a box.
Or they're just scared to put it out there because they're worried that people aren't going to accept it, and and I've felt that way before. I still feel that way. Like, I have all this stuff that I've never put out there because I'm like, what if people don't get it? And it's like, yeah, it's that sucks. Like, I feel like you should just throw it out there and something might stick. Well,
but there's that challenge, but then there's the challenge of how do you put it out there, finding an avenue, and that at least from what I've experienced, that is tricky unless you're maybe doing a pop-up, but then you're sinking a bunch of money and hoping that people will appreciate the work, like you're saying, and at least make it even, like at least you don't lose money on it.
I mean, I think maybe it's easy for me to sit here and say that because I've experienced some success in that world, So yeah, maybe it's easy for me to sit here and be like, just put it out there and you might be pleasantly surprised, because I was. But
it's a good tactic. It's really good advice. Why would you not? It's just you'll have to put in some work to try to figure out where it can go and how it can go.
Yeah, and I mean, and some people, that's not even on their radar because, like I was talking about, they're worried about how to get to work or how to put some food in their fridge, right? And so I realized that being able to work in the arts is a product of privilege.
Oh, totally. We're I try to remind myself all the time is that we're incredibly lucky to, first of all, making art, and then you look at life everywhere else, which is why, like you're saying, finding ways to give back is so valuable. Otherwise, it's so easy to forget. Just things are good.
I just try not to feel guilty about it. I try not to feel guilty about the fact that this is what I get to do and not everyone else gets. Because that does weigh on me sometimes. Where I'm like, ooh, I wish everyone else could do what I get to do and have this cool lifestyle, and be this artist, bohemian artist.
Everyone wants to be you, man.
Yeah,
when you're saying life is real, or is that what you said? Yeah.
Yeah, life's real.
It's can be tough for a lot of people. Yeah, so you gotta.
But yeah, so I don't want to sit here and be vilify myself because this is what I get to do. I don't know. Maybe it's because it's because I'm Irish. Maybe it's some Catholic carryover thing from my ancestors or something that I just feel guilty about, not just being a monk or something.
Yeah, is that your second career choice?
Yeah, you never know. Could go to the cloth. Could happen. Strange things have happened. Yeah.
I want to see the print you're talking about that your friend made. Still have no idea what carpet print looks like.
Oh, the flocking? Yeah.
It's a carpet print.
Yeah, we'll come by the shop. There's one up there for you.
I'd love to. Okay, so I guess now we can just do a little dive into what's coming up next for you, because last time I talked to you, I think it was maybe late summer last year, and you're saying how because your work, I guess you could call it work, I don't know if you call it that, it's taking up so much time that you're finding the time for creativity can be challenging, but also feeling like you need something new and fresh to pursue, because you're saying it has been 5 years, right? Since
it's been just over 5 years with Explorers Press.
So what's coming up next for you, or how do you feel about yourself now with this creative path?
I don't know. I mean, I feel like I don't want to say the brand has gotten stagnant. It's gotten tougher to sort of feel like I'm keeping it fresh with what I've been creating, and I took a lot of time off the brand last year. Still everything's getting shipped out, but I didn't release as much stuff simply because I was busy opening the shop and doing some other stuff, and had some life stuff was happening, and so yeah, I mean, I don't know what's happening, but I know that right now I'm designing some summer stuff for the brand, just some new styles of products, and just bringing on a few different artists, my friend Brandon Ing, he's a tattooer in Toronto, designed this really awesome, a few awesome designs for the brand. Jesse Preston, another tattooer, designed this really awesome bandana and some tote bags and stuff. And Olivia Harrison, who's a tattooer from here. So just
nice. Collabs are good.
The cool thing about collaborating with tattooers that I think is important is a lot of people love their work, but they don't collect tattoos. So it's cool that you can create something that somebody can then go ahead and pick up from the brand that's not a tattoo, right? So it's like, before that, it's like, you know, most of these people, they're busy tattooing. They're not making prints. They're not having art shows. Like, the tattooing is their art, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, then you're like, okay, well, like, here's this tote that you can buy that has their art on it, and you don't have to go ahead and like alter your body permanently to have it. So I think that is really cool. So that's why, like, this stuff is a bunch of, and you know, I've designed a bunch of this stuff for summer as well. Just going back to like more soft goods, and so that's what's happening. I'm just trying to kind of like focus on what's right ahead of me. You know, I don't know. I want to have an art show.
Yeah.
At some point.
So you're going back to this idea of art shows.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just gonna keep making the work, and I find that if I set a deadline, then I'll end up blowing it. But if I just make some work, and then eventually there'll be enough stuff for.
Why would you do an art show? Why is that a?
Because I have it. That was my foundation, right? That was how I started doing what I do now with the brand. But I haven't really made any art for art's sake in a while. You know, the zine, I guess the pool zine was sort of the last thing, and you know, I draw and I like make some paintings and stuff. But I really want to like have a whole like interactive art show.
Would the art show be in Vancouver?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, cool. Anywhere would be cool. Anywhere that wants to have me.
Hopefully
maybe in
people grab
space.
their art. Yeah.
I don't know.
There you go.
Yeah, whatever.
Right by the car, floating by.
Anywhere they'll have me. Yeah, I'll do it out at the ocean. I don't even care.
No, I ask it because I'm trying to figure that out within myself. We talked about it was Peter Reek on the last show, how you may not, or it seems like, especially in Vancouver, it may be harder to sell art. But who knows? Maybe, you know, I'm just not that good yet. So gotta get better until people are gonna want the art or they're interested in it, so that there's more motivation. And then I guess that financial support as well to keep pursuing the fine art.
Yeah.
But and it seems to be like also an old idea, and actually I like the fact that it feels a little older, especially in the digital age. You know, it's cool. I really appreciate going to art shows and seeing fine art and handmade art, and maybe that's actually why I do it, because I like seeing other artists' work. So that's my explanation for it, maybe. But yeah, that's why I asked you why an art show rather than, I don't know, like you're saying, zines or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, I think that zines and all that stuff can be a component of the art show. Like, that was how I got started with zines, is we would just have a little zine table at art shows if we had a group show or whatever, and everyone just like make stuff, have shirts, whatever.
Cool.
And so like I think that having like a takeaway or having something that, I guess if I think about it, that was sort of the first iteration of like making the art accessible, where we'd be like, okay, well, we have these art shows, and like not even everything was really for sale on the walls. Like, some things were just sort of there to be displayed, but it's like, okay, well, like grab a shirt or whatever, you know. And so that was kind of making that accessible for people. Or we would do little books, like not even zines, but like some cool printing houses in Toronto, and we would make like a really nice little art book and be able to sell it for $20. I still have all this stuff in my house. You know?
Awesome. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that community, especially in a comic book side, or like illustration prints, it seems to be something that's on a rise, the way people collect art. So to me, it does make sense to create zines in it, because it's like you're saying, I guess that's probably the main factor, is that it is affordable from artists that you like, from artists who did take 100 hours in a drawing, but because it's printed, then now it's accessible, which is pretty sweet.
Yeah, I think it's cool. And it's just like, it's cool that people put their stuff out there. You know? It's cool that people like make that stuff.
It's easy to share. You're saying that you're trying to keep it fresh with the Explorers Press. Do you think your audience wants something fresh, or do you think they would be happy with something that's along the brand aesthetic? Or you know what I mean?
I don't know. I mean, I don't want to say I don't care, but like I just, my whole thing has always been to be like, I'll just make the stuff that I like and that I think is suitable, and then hopefully people like it, you know.
But when you say you're trying to keep it fresh, are you pushing the aesthetic, or are you staying within it?
I mean, I'm trying to keep it fresh for myself. I'm trying to stay like, I mean, I don't want to do something that's like so, and I don't ever want my brand to be like considered like streetwear, where it's just like follows this like Four Seasons fast fashion. Like, I just make shit that's cool, and I carry a lot of stuff over. Like, you can buy the same designs that I made 5 years ago, like on my web store now, because people like them, and I don't think that there's any rhyme or reason to like, there's no reason to like be like, well, this is cool, so you can't have it. It's like, if you want it, then buy it. So it's like, that's why we have carryover. So like, I'll carry a design over from like the previous season in air quotes.
It only makes sense, really. Why would you not?
Yeah, and it's like, I don't know, it doesn't make sense to just like stop selling something.
Well, it seems like there's these rules that are just there, but
streetwear is like a weird thing.
Yeah.
And like, I've worked in that like streetwear sphere, and it's just like, It's too weird.
Is it like a clique? I know people are pretty passionate about that stuff.
I mean, all the power to like people doing streetwear, people buying streetwear, if that's your thing. But like, there's some streetwear brands that I really like and that I buy. Like, I'm really into like Brain Dead and Powers and like that stuff. Like pretty much anything they sell at Livestock, I think is cool. But you know, it's also just like, it's just a little bit. It's a little weird to me. You know, I mean, maybe I'm old. Maybe I feel like I'm at the end of my 20s and I'm just like. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe I'm old.
Getting old.
I don't get it anymore. You know. I don't know.
But do you try to pay attention to other brands, to other like people doing similar stuff to you?
Yeah, I mean, I don't like keep tabs on anybody, but I like, you know, there was at one point it felt like a very strong community in terms of independent brands. Like we would all talk to each other. My friends, my friend does Stay Home Club out of Montreal. My other friend does No Fun Press out of Toronto, and and my other friend out of Toronto as well does a zine called Yo Sick. And we sell all that stuff at the store. But anyways, we're all in like a group chat and we talk like every day and we just kind of like bounce business ideas or just like be like, hey, I designed this. Like, what do you guys think? Like, oh, why don't you change this color? And so like that, having that community aspect to independent brands is, I feel like, important. I feel like it's changed and it's kind of become less of a community vibe over the last few years. I think it's just because everyone got really successful and it's like, you kind of have to point, you know, you kind of have to go where the money is after a certain, like, or just like, you know, be business minded about it.
Especially like you're saying, if you want to make it easier for yourself to then create more. Yeah, I get it. Just like it's a progression that I guess you can fight it or not.
Well, it's like when you make that leap from being like, okay, this is like a hobby thing to like, this is, you know, then there's an expectation that you have to put out a certain amount of work. And
otherwise you got some headaches and like you're saying, worries about what's coming in. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I have to make a certain amount of money every month to cover my rent of the shop and, you know, all the overhead with the online store and stuff. So it's like, you know, there is, it can't just be art for art's sake. Like it has to be a compromise at some point. And, you know, I'm not going to sit here and say that I don't like make money. Like that's how I make my living, you know. But it's like, you know, I feel like there's a genuine way to do it. There's an honest way to do it instead of just like peddling, you know.
Well, from everything I heard and everything I've seen, it sounds like you're doing it. So yeah, that's awesome.
I hope so. I don't know.
How do you figure out a way to continue learning while you're so busy?
I don't know. I mean, I just like. That's a really hard question to answer. I mean, I feel like I just like learn by doing, you know. I'm very like, my one friend said to me, this is a long time ago, he said, you can't learn how to do something by not doing it. So I try and like do new things. Nice. and I have creative practices that are outside of, you know, like stuff that makes money. Like I got back into ceramics when I moved back to Vancouver. Like I used to do it when I was younger. I did it through high school. I did it before that. I did it in my early 20s. Like got back into ceramics simply as a thing that I just wanted to do for myself. It's almost meditative, you know. And so like, and then from that, it's just kind of like that gets the creative juices flowing, right? So.
And what about, I also noticed you work with cars quite a bit. How does that fit into this whole thing?
Oh man. Well, I mean, cause I worked with my hands, for a job before I worked, as a designer, I guess. So having that as a hobby is kind of this weird inverse thing that I just really like, the feeling of like fixing something or making something work or making something go absurdly fast. I love cars. I mean, I love machines. I've always been mechanically inclined. And like, yeah, I don't know. I just like WD-40 smells good to me, I guess.
I wonder if that shows something about the way your brain thinks, because it's, you know, the mechanical and the engineering side of it. It has to be very, it's not regimented. What's the word? But it's like there's one way to do it, and otherwise you're just gonna destroy an engine or something. Like
I think so. I mean, there's a billion. It's like problem solving, and it's dynamic problem solving. So it's like you're always like, how can I fix this thing? What is, you know, you kind of like workflow. And yeah, I don't know. I mean, I don't know if it has anything to do with creativity, like pen to paper creativity, but I feel good about myself when I fix something, when I make something work, or when I upgrade something.
I guess it doesn't have to. Yeah, it doesn't have to. But everything you do, in some way, right, fits back into.
Yeah, I mean, I don't partition my life into like, well, this is my creative life, and then this is my like grease monkey life. Yeah, you know, it's like whatever. And I like there's creative stuff in cars. Like I really like the design of like old school like hot rod graphics.
So that's where you're into, right?
Yeah, I mean, like I've always peppered a little bit of that into Explorers Press and like done the race flag, like Born to Lose kind of like things. I remember
seeing that.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, like there's this like same thing where it's like just like this beautiful, honest, corny graphic design in the automotive world, especially in the 90s, you know. And like I love collecting, like I collect all the old like drag racing shirts, like you know, Drag Week and all that stuff. And
do you dread moving one day? taking all your
man,
stuff that you saved.
I'm gonna die in that little house. Just
You're not going anywhere. Yeah.
I'm gonna be like King Tut, you know, bury me with all my possessions.
You're gonna build a second floor just to have more stuff to
dig it down into a bunker.
Oh yeah, dig down. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, yeah, I do dread moving. I think about that a lot. I rent, you know,
Yeah.
so it's like I have that little house. I have a whole house to myself, which is lovely.
Nice.
But you know, sometimes it feels like I was actually looking at real estate out in the valley yesterday because I'm like, I really want a 2-car garage because I want to build another car, you know. So
you're like my brothers. It's all about the land and getting the just space for cars.
And I think that just as I get older, I just kind of value my sort of not alone time, but you know, just like home time, and I like love working in my garden and stuff like that. So it's like
you are getting older.
yeah, and I'm like I own 2 pairs of slippers now, you know.
Wow.
Stuff like that.
What about house robe? Do you have that?
I got a robe, yeah.
When I see it, that's when I got that. I was like, oh, that feels nice.
I got the reigning champ robe with the hood, and it looks kind of like a boxing thing.
So you're kind of old. You're still having fun with it.
Yeah, I'm not a regular dad. I'm a cool dad, you know. That's me. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, so like my life is changing. But yeah, no, I do dread moving because I have so much stuff. I've been paring down over the last little bit. Every Christmas, I bag up clothes because I just have a lot of clothes from the industry that I work in. So I bag up clothes and I donate them. And last Christmas I donated a whack of stuff to the Covenant House, which was really cool. And we'll have like leftovers from the brand, like stuff from old seasons or like just stuff that has a little smudge on the print. So like donate all that stuff. Just like trying to like have less clutter in my life, or like just have the right kind of clutter.
That's really cool. And you did mention that people do send you stuff for free, which I thought was pretty.
Yeah, I mean it's like there's like a quid pro quo kind of thing in the industry where you send out a box to somewhere, you get a box back, and you get samples, and having the store, you get samples, you buy samples, and get a bunch of stuff. But it's like I'm funny because I have probably like 200 t-shirts in my place. I wear the same 7 shirts like all the time,
Just don't break into it.
I don't know, like
the
I
black
like
feels good.
I'll buy a shirt that's not even the right size for me because I like the graphic on it.
Look at you, true artist.
I should like document them and then just like get rid of them.
No. I wonder if you can open up a gallery and just have shirts on display. But
then maybe the stuff that I collect and I think is cool isn't like nobody else gives a shit about.
Well, it works with Explorers Press and it's the same brain.
Yeah. I mean, it would be cool to just like transfer my whole home into like a gallery and just like call that an art show.
Well, man, with all your pins, there's a gallery right there.
Yeah. I mean, I've been collecting the lapel pins and patches since I was in Boy Scouts, like since I was 12. So that's
there you go.
17 years.
Wow.
So I have like pretty solid collection there.
Because you know how there's people who are super rich and they're collecting art their whole life. When they pass away, they build a museum, name it after them, and they just throw their collection in there. I'm just saying, you can plan ahead.
Yeah, but my pin and patch collection could be in like a shoebox or like a doghouse. So you like have a tiny gallery.
Oh, yeah.
Like we'll start 500 patches is like a shoebox. Like that's crazy, right?
It depends how you frame it. You know how sometimes you go to those like contemporary galleries, there's just like a giant wall and a tiny piece of art on one wall and just leave it there. Yeah. Because deep.
That would be cool.
You can do it many different ways. But the reason I was asking about cars, I've noticed from the artists I follow and a couple artists I know who do also work with cars, it somehow makes sense, especially I think if it's a concept art field where your job may be to design a spaceship or something, so those things correlate really well. Especially if you're making something mechanical and you don't understand how it works, a lot of people can just see through it. Where getting like legitimate things that look like they could actually exist in real life is pretty cool. That's why you always, or I don't know, I was gonna say you always hear, but I don't know if people always hear because I'm in this industry how Disney and Pixar, the bigger studios, if they're creating a movie, like if they're doing Finding Nemo, they're going to send our team to Australia to go snorkeling or something, just to learn all about it, so you can actually make it feel like it's real life. So
probably just helps them care about what they're doing too, instead of just like, okay, well you can Google image search like pictures of whatever kind of crazy fish you want, but like if you go and have a connection with it, then that's like going to inspire you to actually like care about something.
Yeah. Well, man. I think we're getting pretty close. Unfortunately, the 2 hours are running out.
I could get back to the shop.
Oh, you got to go work? Are you running out? You should have let me know. Okay.
No, it's all good.
Let's usually I do some recurring questions. Let's get into a couple and then we can wrap it up.
Yeah.
And the one that's always interesting to me is just because you can be hard on yourself if you want to, but what advice would you give your younger self before you got into, or before you decided to pursue the art path? Although in your case, I guess I was really, let's say 20 years old or something like that. You know, when you're
Maybe don't drink so much.
Yeah, is that big?
Yeah, I used to drink a lot.
Peter Reek told me to drink more. He said that's how he got art done.
Well,
Now I'm getting some conflicting messages.
hats
here.
off to him. I don't know. I haven't had a drop in almost 6 years. But yeah, no.
And that made your art better. The productivity went up.
Absolutely. That was the catalyst to like do what I do. Is I got sober. But no, I don't know. Advice to myself. I was 20. Dedicate more time to being creative. You know, like like put aside time to be creative. You know, like I would just do it when the inspiration struck. But I know now that like creativity is like a muscle, and you just kind of have to like you gotta take it to the gym every once in a while. So like if you just do the thing, then the good ideas come after. You know.
I guess so. But that kind of advice is hard to listen to, right?
Oh man, I didn't listen to anybody when I was 20. So I wouldn't listen to anyone.
You wouldn't listen to yourself unless you time traveled and you're like, okay, well, can't mess around here.
Who's
this guy? This guy looks like me.
Who's this handsome salt and pepper version of myself? You know.
So your younger self would like you right now.
Probably.
This guy's cool.
Yeah.
He's working on cars,
Lots
making
of
art.
tattoos.
Yeah, there you go. How many tattoos?
I got a few. A couple.
Okay, well, I think what we'll do is just you'll have to come back because I did want to get into especially the fact that you didn't go to post-secondary, you know, these days, the way the art schools are getting really expensive. Yeah, I mean, that's a whole big conversation that we can, I'll just say, you know, I'll be happy to have you back one day and we'll
anytime you want to have me, man, I'm glad to come on down.
Sweet. So I guess, do you want to let people know how they can find you?
Yeah, for sure. If you want to check out the brand, it's explorerspress.com, all one word. The shop is called Half and Half, and it's halfandhalf.shop on Instagram. My signage company is called Seinfeld, SIGNFELD, Seinfeld Custom on Instagram. And if you can figure out how to spell my last name,
Say it again.
Brendan Megannety on Instagram.
Megannety.
I don't know. Yeah.
God damn it, messed it up.
Come find me on the internet.
Dude, well, see, once again, all these things you just mentioned, like, oh yeah, those things we should talk about too. But anyways, yeah, well, I think that what we'll do is I'll have you back and we'll just keep going with this thing.
Yeah, would love to.
Thank you so much.
Cool. Thank you for having me.
I learned a lot. I hope people learned a lot too.
I talked a lot.
Yeah, that's the point of it. It was really cool. All right, people. You had some knowledge dropped on you. That was pretty magic. Magic or pretty magic? It was pretty magical. If you want to learn more about Creative Theater Podcast, you can find us on Instagram, Facebook, and all that. Tune in next week for our super cool friends from Snackcast because they're hilarious. And if not, I'll be back in 2 weeks. Otherwise, this time I'll take us out with Rain by Eben. I think that's the name. Yeah. Let's enjoy some Muzak and talk to you soon. Bye-bye.